Title of my sermon this morning is A Journey of Trust, and it's drawn from Psalm 23. Trust is the core of our Christian pilgrimage. Our trust is not founded, however, on a promise of safety nor a guarantee of prosperity. In these extraordinary days, this tumultuous time, some may question why we should trust God. Why does our faith include trust? We are not the first to face adversities like the current highly infectious coronavirus. I mulled over many examples to share with you this morning, but settled on one where isolation and danger were particularly present. After two unsuccessful starts to its voyage, the Mayflower departed England on September 6th, 1620. A prominent member of the Puritans aboard kept a journal. Here are some of his entries describing their crossings of the Atlantic. He wrote, "They put to sea again with a prosperous wind, which continued several days together, which was some encouragement unto them, yet according to the usual manner, many were afflicted with seasickness. After they enjoyed fair winds and weather, they encountered many times crosswinds and met with many fierce storms, with which the ship was thoroughly shaken, and her upper works made very leaky. And one of the main beams amidship was downed and cracked, which put them in some fear that the ship could not be able to perform the voyage. Some of the chiefs of the company, perceiving that the mariners to fear the condition of the ship, as appeared by their mutterings, they entered into serious consultation with the master and others of the ship to consider whether to return rather than to cast themselves into desperate and inevitable peril. And truly there was a great distraction and difference of opinion amongst the mariners themselves. But in examining of all opinions, the master and others affirmed they knew the ship to be strong and firm under water. And for the buckling of the main beam, there was a great iron screw the passengers brought out of Holland, which would raise the beam into its place, which was done. So they committed themselves to the will of God and resolved to proceed. In many of these storms, the winds were so fierce and the seas so high they could not bear a knot of sail, but were forced to heave to, face into the wind to stop the ship for many days together. After long beating at sea, they fell with that land which is called Cape Cod. They were not a little joyful. After some deliberations among themselves and with the master of the ship, they resolved to sail southward to find some place about Hudson's River for their habitation. But after they sailed the course about a half day, they fell amongst dangerous shoals and roaring breakers, and resolved to bear up again to the Cape, and thought themselves happy to get out of those dangers before night overtook them. Being thus arrived in a good harbor and brought safe to land, they fell upon their knees and blessed the God of heaven who had brought them over the vast and furious ocean and delivered them from all the perils and miseries thereof. The Mayflower took 66 days to cross the Atlantic. When the crew and the pilgrims reached Cape Cod, they were 600 miles off course, having desired to land in Virginia. Their journey seemed horrible, encountering many storms followed by the danger of landing on an unfamiliar coastline. While crossing the vast, empty ocean, they were together but isolated on their ship. Given the hardships they faced, some might ask, why would they bless God when they stepped on dry land? Moreover, why didn't God make their trip more pleasant? They were devout, religious people deserving of divine blessing and protection, right? Both the Puritans and the author of the 23rd Psalm would take issue with those questions. The correct theological understanding of God's agency is not one of protection from all bad things in the world, but instead that God will be with us always. In The Lord is My Shepherd, Healing Wisdom of the 23rd Psalm, Rabbi Harold S. Kushner writes, God cannot promise us happy endings in a world where the laws of nature and human cruelty take their daily toll. God's promise is not that we will be safe, but that we will never be alone. The Puritans would agree. They risked their lives leaving England for the New World not to be protected from hardships and grief, but to find a place to worship God in freedom. In the face of daunting challenges and perilous waters, they crossed the ocean and gave thanks to God. The 23rd Psalm begins, "The Lord is my shepherd." The psalmist is not just creating a metaphorical image. There is an essential pastoral element to those words and the words that follow, but the words are equally theological. The opening of the psalm reminds us that we live in a world that is unpredictable and often terrifying. We cannot and do not control many things, if not most things. Control is an illusion, and the future is unpredictable. Just ask any trader or investment banker. Our world seems especially unpredictable and terrifying these days. The coronavirus has set upon us a squall of chaos not seen for many years. It has caused the markets to heave and fall as if they were massive waves tossing our wooden ships of investments and savings. We are now isolated in ways not seen since the cataclysmic times of the 14th century, when the Black Plague tore across Europe, leaving many areas devoid of humans. As Christians, our response is to seek perspective. We are but pilgrims journeying briefly on this earth. While most days life unfolds as expected and foreseeable, we know that that is not always the case. We cannot always see the paths ahead, nor its pitfalls, but we can journey with confidence because God is with us. And how do we face these times? First, our prayers should not be for calm waters or romanticized days of tranquility. No, as the noted 19th century Episcopal Bishop Phillips Brooks once wrote, "I do not pray for a lighter load, but for a stronger back." We should also seek to serve each other. As people of a gathering community, we must find new ways to do so. Maybe now is the time to rediscover the art of letter writing, or to figure out how to talk to our family and friends via online video chat, or isolation. Our isolation also lets our minds think more deeply. If we unplug for a day or two from the insipid drool of the 24-hour news cycle to think about our lives and faith, will we miss much? But if we miss connecting with each other and God, much will be lost. Loneliness and boredom will tighten our back muscles and cloud our good mood. As has been the case with much of this century, we encounter new problems requiring the best of us. As people of faith, we are well situated. We can trust that the divine shepherd is with us. Let go of the fear gripping so many and be a source of wisdom and strength to those around us.